All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Dave Murray. Dave, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you, Kevin. It's great to be here. I'm thrilled we have a chance to chat.
Same. I am stoked to have this conversation with you today. And so, I wanna start by giving a shout out to Jessica at the podcast guest platform. The work those guys do. I mean, I have met so many amazing entrepreneurs through those guys and their platform, and Jessica in particular. I don't know what caused her to reach out to me, but she reached out to me about I don't know, maybe a year or so, 12, 14 months ago. And she was like, Kevin, we'd like to host your podcast on our platform. And she goes, and we don't want to charge you for anything. We just want to give you some exposure because we absolutely love what you're doing. And I'm like,
Yep.
wow, that's really cool. And so that was a good experience. Well, then she just messages me every once in a while. I don't know, maybe once, twice a month, and saying, "Hey, Kev, we have so and so, and I think they would really be a great fit for you to do an interview with. Why don't you check out their profile and reach out to them and stuff?" And I'm like, she's just kind of taken me under her wing on this, and not once has she ever steered me wrong, Dave. And so
Yeah.
she did that with you guys. And then after I checked out your profile on the podcast guest platform, I went and there's a link to go to your website from there. And I
Yes.
went to go to your guys' website and I'm browsing around your website. And then there was a link to you had some comments, a comment page from people that you worked with and stuff. And the very first comment was a video from this gal, Robin Robbins. And I'm like, you have got to, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. Because
Yeah.
I have known Robin for years. And I absolutely love Robin. I love who she is. I love how she shows up. I have watched her grow that technology marketing toolkit business of hers. I mean,
Yes.
and she has just stepped in. I mean, she's a phenomenal entrepreneur. And
Mm.
the other thing I know about Robin is she does not just dole out testimonials and great compliments. I mean, if she's going to do that with anybody, they've earned it, man. They have earned it because I just know Robin is that way. Yeah.
Yeah, they do some amazing things. It's been wonderful to work with Technology Marketing Toolkit. We've done some work with them really for the last 4 or 5 years between John DeJulius, the head of our organization, between John and myself. We speak at their conferences. I'm actually doing something with them on Tuesday over Zoom, one of their webinars that they do on a regular basis.
That's
They
awesome.
are just a wonderful organization, and we're honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah, that is awesome. And of course, when and of course, what a testament to. I mean, that's what this podcast is all about. It's about relationships,
Yep.
And if it wasn't enough just getting referred to you guys by Jessica to then have the connection with Robin. I mean, I was so stoked to talk with you and your partner when we first got to connect, just because I mean, when a new relationship comes in through that way, it's like there is no better way. There is
Right.
no better way, you know. And so what I'd like to do is I want to start off just by turning it over to you, so we can set a little bit of context, so we can let the listeners know a little bit about, share about like what you guys do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work you guys do and the impact you're making. And we'll just start there, Dave.
Absolutely. I'd love to, Kevin. Thanks for that opportunity. So at the DeJulius Group, we're a small consulting firm. We're based in Cleveland, Ohio, but we're truly international. We spend most of our time in North America, but we worked in across Europe and in Australia. And what we do, what's at our core is customer experience consulting. So we go out and help organizations focus on the customer experience they are delivering to whoever their customer is. Now, we use the term customer pretty much. across the board, whether you have clients, whether you have patients, whether you have customers. Sometimes they're internal, sometimes they're external. We define customers as anyone that depends on the work that you do. So when you think about it that way, we all have multiple customers that we're working with on a regular basis. So what we do in our consulting is we go out and help organizations really focus on the experience they're delivering, both externally and also internally. And then we help them create some standards to put in place so that what once we determine what we want the experience to be, then the hard part is how do we make sure we're delivering this consistently? And so we help them put some standards in place and some guidelines, also some accountability tools, some certification tools, so that everything that we are creating is then easy to access, easy to train, and people then understand how to go out and deliver it. For us, it really comes down to something we call service aptitude. And service aptitude is all that soft skill training.
Okay.
And what happens with a lot of organizations, unfortunately for us as consumers, is a lot of organizations, most organizations, want to provide a good experience, right? They don't want to be lousy when it comes to the experience. But the problem is most organizations don't take any time to focus on that and create training around that. So when they hire somebody new, they may say, hey, here's how you work the cash register. Here's all the hard skills you need to know. And by the way, provide a great experience.
Yeah.
And that's it, right?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
then it's left to that person and their own devices to figure out what that looks like. And so that's why there are so many inconsistencies out there. Whether you're calling into a contact center or going in face to face to order something, to buy something, a lot of organizations just don't have a plan. They hope that their team members provide a great experience. So that's really what we do. We have multiple workshops that we go around to our clients and conduct. One of the cool things about our consulting is we assemble teams of employees of these organizations when we do a workshop to come and help us create it, right? So it's not just us as consultants going in and saying, hey, you should do this, this, and this. I mean, we do share best practices, obviously, but really what we do is we kind of shepherd them through the process of employees creating the experience of the future for their organization. Because they know the best. They're in the trenches. They're having those conversations. They know what their capabilities are. They know, there's a lot of we wish we had this, we wish we had that. Well, okay, let's figure out how to do that. Let's accomplish that. So that's the core of our business. And recently, we've always had a focus on internal culture because we know how important the internal culture of an organization is to really deliver the external experience, right? If you have a
Mhm.
lousy internal
Mhm.
culture, your external experience is not going to be great. And if it is, it's not going to last very long. And so we've always focused on internal culture and leadership. But recently, probably starting back in about 2015, we were hearing from our clients that there was more of a need to develop leaders. There need to be more of a focus, especially to lead this initiative, right? To lead the experience that they wanted to be delivering. So customer or internal experience has become bigger in our world. That we've always had it, but it's become a bigger piece of what we do in consulting. So I'm not going to say that we are a leadership consultancy, but leadership and internal culture is a big piece of what we do because it's so important to the overall experience. And one more thing, Kevin, you asked about our clients. And one of the cool things about my job, there's a couple cool things. The first one is we always say that bad companies don't hire us, right? We don't hear from lousy organizations that say, hey, please come fix us. We hear from really good organizations that are really good at what they do, right? So they're operationally excellent, whatever it is that they are focused on, they're experts at it. But then they're also pretty good at delivering an experience. So some of your listeners might be saying, well, then why do they call you? They call us because they realize there's always room to raise the bar. And if
Mhm.
they focus on the experience they are delivering to their customers, it can become a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And so they kind of make it a higher priority and really put that focus in. So that's who our clients are. And as far as industries, we work across all industries, which makes it really interesting. That's the other cool thing about my job. It keeps it really interesting. When I'm out traveling to our clients, one day I could be at a factory wearing a hard hat. The next day I could be touring a hospital. Really, anyone that has customers can use our services, and they do. So we're really across all industries when it comes to customers.
Okay. Okay. So before we hit the record button, you
Hmm.
shared something very interesting with me, and I want to circle back to it before we move on because you haven't always worked at this company. The way you found out about this company was because you worked at another company and you guys were a client of the. So
Yes.
I want to hear about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually a great story. So my entire career before joining the DeJulius Group about 11 years ago in 2013, my entire career was in sports and entertainment. So that was my
Okay.
degree in college, and I worked for multiple teams, and I loved it. I worked for the Boston Bruins for a while. I worked for the Cleveland Cavaliers, my hometown basketball team. I spent most of my time with the Cleveland Indians, now the Cleveland Guardians, my hometown baseball team. I was there two times, 12 years total. And while I was there in my second stint, I was overseeing a team called Fan Services, and we were kind of a catch-all. We were customer service. We also provided a little extra experience for some of our um, more important stakeholders, like season ticket holders and suite holders. But we really were across the board. We also did some outbound sales, so we covered a lot of ground. And one of the things that we realized at the Indians, I remember being in a meeting probably in 2009 or so, 2010, somewhere around there. We were in a meeting and our sales were declining a little bit, our ticket sales.
Okay.
And we had a conversation about, are we doing everything we can to build relationships with our fans, specifically our most important fans, our biggest stakeholders, our season ticket holders and our suite holders? Are we doing everything we can? And what we found was, like most organizations, we had a sales team in place that did a great job. They would sell, but we didn't have a lot of support services. And what happened was, you probably know from other organizations, salespeople like to sell. They don't necessarily like to provide support and do all that behind the scenes work. And so we realized that we were probably leaving a lot of dollars on the table because we weren't really focused on building relationships once we had someone in the fold.
Okay.
And so we said to ourselves, we had to do a better job of creating relationships and delivering an experience
Mhm.
outside of just the play on the field, or in our case, our product, right? Our product kind of spoke for itself. And when the team was winning, sales went up. When the team wasn't winning, sales went down. So we said we need to insulate ourselves from losses and create an experience that keeps people coming regardless of what our product, the team on the field, is doing. So we knew that we had to tackle this, but we weren't really sure where to start. So we did some research, and our research led us about 6 miles east of the ballpark to John DeJulius and the DeJulius Group. John, at that point, was a well-known keynote speaker and also doing some consulting work
Okay.
with organizations. And so we hired John to come in and put us through some of those workshops. I had the excellent opportunity to be the point person. I was the project lead on behalf of the Cleveland Indians for that project, and put my team and a couple other teams through some workshops and really focused on our customer experience and where we could make improvements, where we could be focused on building better relationships and how to do that too, right? It's one thing to say, hey, go build better relationships, but that's going to mean different things to different peoples, right? We also knew we had to put that methodology in place on how you do that. So what are the steps that we want you to take in a phone call or in a face-to-face meeting to really focus on building that relationship? So we went through that process with John, and it really changed my outlook on my position. I know it changed the outlook of my team. It was invigorating. My team was inspired because a lot of them were in customer service, and we know how customer service can become transactional, hearing the same thing over and over and over. But it was inspirational, and it really helped us move the needle. It helped us create some new lines of revenue because we were looking at some more relationship-based ancillary products that we could sell to our season ticket holders that went over really, really well. So it really helped us. And going through that process, I was thinking to myself, as much as I love my job here at the Cleveland Indians, I wouldn't mind doing that too. I kind of like what John's doing. I kind of like this process. And so fast forward about a year or so later, the Julius Group was looking to add a consultant as they were growing. And I threw my hat in the ring, and the rest is history. Here I am today.
Wow. What an awesome experience. what an awesome experience and what an awesome story. And, as you're sharing that, I'm just like, man, I have long believed that as entrepreneurs, relationships are our most valuable asset.
Hmm.
Everything else stems from that.
Yes.
And of course, launching this podcast 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, man, it has exponentially impacted everything that I was already doing. And it's stories like that you just shared that, I mean, man, that inspires me. That just like, it's
Hmm.
like, I want to help all entrepreneurs be able to have those kind of relationships with the people in their life, with the people that their companies serve, with the people on their team, with the people that are their vendors or what have you, to be able to have those just really mean, and really, I mean, my goodness, this stuff carries over into the relationships with my wife, with my kids, with
Yeah.
my family too.
You
And
know, it's such a great point, Kevin. And I'll tell you, when we go out and conduct our workshop, so when I go out and work with a client for the first time, and we're doing a workshop with maybe 30 of their employees and getting them in a room and spending a day focusing on their experience, and we start to share some of our methodologies and some of our best practices. One of the things that's most rewarding about my job is when people come up to me afterwards and say, this session was life changing. This was an inspirational. And what is even more exciting to me, because I hear this often, is when people say maybe a few months later, I see them again, they'll say, you know what, that changed my life. Not only at work, but also at home. And because it's not a switch that you turn on or off, right? It's really a focus of yours if you're open to it, if you're aware of it and focused on it. And a lot of people aren't. The reality is in our lives today, especially with the distractions and the devices, we can become very, very transactional at work, with customers, at home, with our spouse or kids, family members. We can become very, very transactional, just kind of working down that check the box list of things I have to do. And it's easy to get caught up in that mode, and we kind of have to pull ourselves out of that. And that's one of the things that we really focus on in our workshops, especially for employees when they're clocked in and doing their job, that they're focused on building that relationship and looking for areas of opportunity to build rapport,
yeah,
learn about that customer, because it's so easy not to, right? So easy just to kind of like ask the questions, get the answers, and move on, as opposed to making that conversation an experience.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, okay. So now that we've got a little bit of context set here, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of our listeners. So, Dave, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, well, a couple of people come to mind, right? That
Okay.
the first person I have to mention is my wife of 25 years, Tracy, who's been my biggest cheerleader. Let me make some gambles, right?
Yep.
Let me
Yep.
do some things that, maybe some spouses might say, "Wait a minute, that sounds a little too risky, or that's a little bit of a gamble. Do you really want to do that?"
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And she's always been in my corner, 100% backing me. And so I couldn't accomplish anything that I've accomplished yet today without her. So that's first and foremost. And then on the professional side of things, yeah, I've been lucky. I've had so many great bosses in my time. Going back to my sports career, working at the Cleveland Indians, working at the Boston Bruins, I've just been able to work under some amazing people, and I learned so much from each of them that, I'm a big believer that I wouldn't be where I am today without those previous experiences,
Yeah.
right? If I didn't have those years in sports and entertainment, working for teams, overseeing a contact center, I wouldn't be as successful at the DeJulius Group doing what I'm doing now, because I'm always pulling back. I'm always drawing from those past experiences and sharing that with audiences as we're building the experience. So everything I've done kind of leads to where I am now. And probably the biggest impact for that in my career is our founder, my current boss, John DeJulius. When I first met him, I knew of John for many years because we're kind of from the same neighborhood. He's a little older than I am, but
Okay.
we had friends of friends, and I always knew of John. But when I really got to work with him, I was still at the Cleveland Indians, as we discussed, as a client. When I really got to work with him, I started to learn so much right off the bat. And then when I came over to the Julius group, he took a gamble on me, and said, "Yeah, we think you can do this job. Would you like it?" I said, "Yes, I would." And I came over, and he's just really given me so many amazing opportunities, right? Like, so I was never a professional speaker. I would do some speaking especially at the Indians, as I kind of grew in my career and became a director and then a senior director. I would have to speak more in front of large groups. Sometimes it would be maybe a fan council where we bring in 200 fans and do some sort of meet and greet and surveying, or even the internal staff of 250. But I never really saw myself as a professional speaker, but
Okay.
really kind of taking that step, putting my trust in John and having his trust in me. I'm a person now that it facilitates workshops on a regular basis from 20 people to a couple hundred people. I give keynote addresses to large groups on big stages. Something I never saw myself doing. Maybe something that I aspired to do, but I
Okay.
didn't necessarily see the path to get there.
All right.
And then the biggest thing, most recently, thanks to John, as of this past June 1st, is that I'm a co-author now. John has written 5 best-selling books on Amazon on customer experience, and then beginning last year, we collaborated together to write a book on the internal experience. We call it the Employee Experience Revolution, is the title of the book. We collaborated on that. And thanks to John and his knowledge of writing those 5 previous books, he was able to kind of bring me along, help me with that process. Because, right, I think a lot of people are in this boat. I always wanted to write a book. I always thought it would be a great thing to do. I actually, if I looked on my desk here, I probably have a couple stacks of drafts of ideas, and they're kind of all different directions. Um, but that's what really got me to get that across the goal line.
Yeah.
And to co-author with him was a great honor, and really a rewarding process. It's so great it's not because your name's on a book, it's because you worked hard to find some really solid and important information, and then you get to share it with people. And that's the really cool thing about being an author. And public speaking, being an author, those are things that I probably would not be doing if it wasn't for John and my opportunity to join the DeJulius group. But here I am.
Yeah. And I look at that and I'm like, wow, what a beautiful alignment there between the two of you. That you, through your position at the Cleveland Indians, you got to experience what it was like to be on the receiving end of the work that was being done to the Julius group.
Yep.
And through that experience, like you said, you're just like, wow, an opening came with the company, and you're like, I would really like to do that.
Yeah.
And here you are. And now I I would imagine that John's going to be booking that time on my calendar here and in the near future too to
Yes.
do an interview. And I'm really curious to hear what he has to say about you. When we have a conversation, because there is this obvious, really, there's just mutual respect and admiration between the two of you, and it
Yeah.
just comes through loud and clear that you two are accomplishing far more together than either one of you can possibly do on your own stuff.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it's
And I have a guess at what John might say, what he might mention. He might mention a couple of things, but one that kind of stands out to me was I remember him telling me that they didn't think they were going to be able to get me, that they thought I would be a good hire. They didn't think I was going to be able to get me because they knew at the time they couldn't match my current salary at the
Mhm.
Indians, right? So I'd grown and I was a senior director. I was doing pretty well, and the Julius group was still small and growing and trying to continue to grow. And so they made me the best offer that they could. It was a little less than my current salary. But again, going back to my wife, who I opened with, we had those conversations and she's like, yeah, I think I get it. It's going to be a little less. We might have to tighten our belts a little bit here and there, but it seems like the opportunity you're really excited about, so go for it. And it's paid off.
Yeah, yeah. And I have had experiences in the past which were really great learning experiences. Well, I mean, it's just one in particular where my wife, I was getting ready to enter into this arrangement with a person. And my wife told me, she goes, honey, I don't know what it is, but I can't even put my finger on it, but I just really don't think you should do this. I don't think this is a right fit. And I was like, honey, I totally get it, but I think it's going to be okay. And I moved forward with that. And looking back, I was like, I should have listened to my wife closer. Yeah. and now I do. And ever since that experience, I'm like, I am gonna when my wife tells me something like that, I am gonna listen. I'm gonna ask questions. Why do you feel that way? What are you seeing that I might be missing? And pretty much, if she's like, I don't think you should do this. You know what? I don't. And there is something to be said for that.
Yeah, Kevin, I've learned that lesson as well. My wife, for whatever reason, I don't know how she has this skill, but she is an amazing judge of character.
Yes.
Her first impression of someone, she kind of either gives you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And what I've learned is she's always right. Yeah. So if she advises me against something, I'm kind of like, okay, tell me more, because we probably shouldn't go in this direction then.
Yeah. Absolutely. And and like you, we haven't been married quite as long. We just celebrated our 19th anniversary, so we're not too far behind you. But I'll tell you, I consider myself one of the luckiest guys in the world, just being able to have that woman by my side and supporting me in the way that she does. And you and I are both two blessed guys in that regard.
Absolutely,
for sure.
100%.
So. Okay, so I first of all, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation today, and for anybody that's listening to this right now, going, man, Kev, I just really love Dave and the way that he shows up, and I want to chime in here really quick because you and I and your partner John, we got to connect and we had a conversation on Zoom. And through that, and me just kind of getting to know you guys a little bit, and finding out about your book and all of that, I was like, you know what, man, there is two people in my life that I would really like to send your book to, and you were like, well, Kev, just let us know who it is and we'll do that. And I was thinking, I'll just get a copy. But you guys were like, just let us know their addresses and we'll take care of that for you. And because I will tell you that with the caliber of entrepreneurs that I am blessed to be able to serve, one right message at the right time can end up being incredibly valuable. And for me personally, I felt the energy around that. And I know I was sharing this with you before we hit the record button. I let both of those guys know that, hey, I got a little something coming your guys' way. And I am just, thank you, Dave. I just wanted to say thank you so much for just agreeing to do that and just help me further a couple of the relationships in my life that are incredibly important to me, because that means a lot. And,
absolutely. We're glad to do it.
And I'm sure there's some people listening to this that are going, okay, Kev, I love Dave. I love the way he shows up. What are some resources, some websites that we can share in case they want to go and check out more about what you guys are doing and stuff?
Absolutely. So our primary resource is our website, thedejuliusgroup.com. So you can go there and learn about our consulting. You can learn about some of the classes that we offer, because we also offer in-person classes. We have one class called the Customer Experience Executive Academy, which is geared towards those that are going to lead the experience throughout their organization, whether they're a chief experience officer for an organization or a director of experience or even a customer service director. It's a great resource for them. So we have those classes that people can take. We also have a newer class called the internal experience
Okay.
academy, right? And so that's all for whether it's HR professionals or other folks that are on the hiring side of things or just leading and want to be better at leading within their organization. So those are all resources that are available on our website, thedejuliusgroup.com. You could also find all of the books there. As I mentioned, John has 5 customer service bestsellers, and then our new one, The Employee Experience Revolution, you can get there as well. Or, of course, wherever you like to buy books on Amazon or whatever your choice is. But I would say that's probably the best resource because all of our information is really there. We have a lot of great tabs. You can go and check out some different resources. As you know, there's some great testimonials on there as well from people that we worked with in the past. So it's a great resource.
Awesome. Perfect. And I will make sure and we include that with the show notes when the podcast gets released. And um, Dave, any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap today?
Kevin, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. It was funny. We heard from you about jumping on with your podcast and doing an interview. And, we get that from time to time. We're on podcasts from time to time. And sometimes they can be very transactional. It's kind of, hey, I'm going to ask you these, and okay, we'll do it. And it's almost just kind of like a transaction you'd have at a store or something, right? And the fact that we got a chance to meet with you first and really spend an hour just chatting and
Yeah.
learning about all of our connections. I think it was just such a great experience. Not only was it cool to be on your podcast and share some of what we do at the DeJulius Group and how I got here, but it was just a great experience as well. And I think we started some relationships that are going to continue to grow.
Agreed. Agreed. I think this is the start of something that's going to be really powerful and impactful.
Yep.
And I have already got some stuff rolling in the back of my head that I'm like, oh, I want to talk to them about this. And so this has really spurred that on. So thank you. And yeah, for anybody, listening into this, if you like I said, if you're feeling like, man, I really like Dave and the way they show, and I'd like to find out more about what they do, go check out their website, check out some of those resources. And Dave, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. Really appreciate you and excited to get this out there.
Thank you, Kevin. It was great to be part of the $1 Million Relationship Podcast. It was an honor.
Absolutely. All right.